are going to cover bugs on the trail. So obviously it's no surprise, you're definitely going to encounter some bugs on the trail. You're going to have, you know, the occasional moth that lands in your food while you're cooking or eating it. You're going to have, you know, the occasional roach that like flies to your headlamp while you're trying to cook dinner or set up your tent. So you'll get over that, I promise. I had a roach, you know, fly directly on my face one time without missing a beat. I just grabbed it and threw it off, and before I wouldn't have done that. So I promise you, you'll build up some kind of immunity to them. However, there are those that you need to be a little more cautious with, like ticks, mosquitoes, spiders, and of course stinging insects for those of you who are allergic to them. I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, what I did about these things while I was hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I decided to go ahead and make a video to answer that question for y'all. And again, you just have to figure out what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. But this is kind of my experience and the experience of those who were around me. Alright, so stinging insects like wasps, yellow jackets, bees, hornets, all of those things, if you are allergic to them or you do not know if you're allergic to them, it would probably be a good idea to have an EpiPen, some Benadryl, or one of those like sting extractor kits. Just, you know, if you're not sure, or if you are sure that you're allergic, you definitely want to take every precaution possible, because it'd be really bad to be out there in the middle of nowhere and have nothing in that instance. I was stung once by a wasp, and I think pretty much everybody that I knew was at least stung once. It doesn't happen a whole lot, but you know, it could. I mean, let's face it, it's 2,000 miles in the woods. And spiders. You will definitely encounter a lot of spiders on the trail. Most of them you don't have to worry about. Most of them you won't even know what they were, because you'll be walking and just web in your face. That's usually early in the morning if you're early to rise, or if you're a night owl and night hiking. So it's kind of when there isn't high traffic on the trail and the spiders are like, oh, this is a great home for the night, because, you know, the bugs will be coming through. I would suggest not murdering all of the spiders you see, because, hey, they kind of lower the population of other flying insects. So keep that in mind. Now, for those of you who are not in the US, or for those of you who aren't familiar with spiders, the only two that you're going to really have to worry about on the trail are going to be your black widows and your brown recluses. And I got bit by spiders while I was on the trail. I didn't even know what kind of spider it was, but I could pretty much tell it was a spider bite. I was fine. There was nothing to worry about. There was no infection. If you start feeling ill, or, you know, you start noticing that the bite looks like maybe infected or like, you know, serious, go to the doctor. And last but not least, you have mosquitoes and ticks, which you will encounter both of these on the trail. You're going to get bit by mosquitoes. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then ticks, I actually never had a tick attached to me while on the trail, but I definitely saw others who did. I had one crawling up my pants and one on my pack. But luckily there are some ways that you can, you know, minimize your contact with these bugs. Now, if you're going northbound, you're a Novo, and you're, you know, starting in the, well, I don't know, February to end of March range, you're not going to have to worry about bugs right away. It's not going to be an issue, so don't worry about the weight of, you know, dealing with bugs, bug sprays, and things like that. And now, if you're a Sobo and you're starting at Katahdin, the earliest you can start is really like May 31st, June 1st-ish. I've heard that the black flies are terrible at that time, but I don't personally know, because you know, I was Nobo. So, but that is something to consider. If you're Sobo, you might need to go ahead and start worrying about bugs, and if you're Nobo, you ain't got to worry about it for a while. So what did I do personally? I actually did nothing. I did not use bug spray. I did not treat my clothes. I didn't do anything. Yes, I got bit by mosquitoes. Yes, I was chased by swarms of them. And like I said, I had 2 ticks, you know, on my clothes, but none of them even attached. But then, you know, there might be somebody who did nothing and they had, you know, 7. It really just depends on the year, you know, what the year was like before. Was it dry? There are just a lot of factors in how the ticks are going to be each year, and the mosquitoes too. The reason I did nothing is I just didn't want to put poison on me every day. I knew I wasn't going to be bathing every day, and I just decided, you know, I'll go for it and I'll see what happens, and if it gets bad, then you know, then I'll deal with it when that happens. My favorite thing to do in dealing with mosquitoes is stop and just let as many of them land on you as you can stand, and then you have a mosquito massacre. Now, it's probably not actually helpful, but it makes you feel a little bit better, because I'm telling you, they mess with your mind so badly. So I'm being chased by a cloud of mosquitoes right now, and I'm literally trying to hike very fast so that, hey, what's up, attacking me. There's like little blood spots on me, not from where I've mashed them, but from like where they're extracting my blood. They're like freaking pterodactyls. You hear it rumored that we're like naturally selecting for rattlesnakes that don't rattle because we kill them when we hear them. But I think out here we're selecting for mosquitoes that are ninja speed because we're killing all the slow ones. And like these ninja ones, they chase you and like you slap and then they're not there. It's just horrible. Can't escape them. Now, that might not be the safest route because, you know, there is Lyme disease to worry about with ticks, West Nile virus with the mosquitoes, and you know, potentially others. So if you do start feeling sick, basically like flu-like symptoms, it could be Lyme, it could be West Nile. I mean, it could just be a virus, right? A regular, you know, you've gotten sick and you got a virus. But if you're achy or feeling pain or, you know, having a fever, you need to go to the doctor as soon as possible. Anyway, without further delay, I have polled my fellow thru-hikers to see what they did, and many of them did nothing like I did. But for the ones who did do something to help prevent being bitten by ticks and mosquitoes, here is what they did. So one of the most common things that other thru-hikers did was treat their gear with permethrin. So you can treat like your pack, your hammock, your clothes, and it's good for up to, I think, like 5 or 6 washes, but I would go by, you know, the instructions for treating your gear. And I'll include a link below in the info for this permethrin so you can see what I'm talking about and read up on it a little bit more. But you know, this will help repel mosquitoes and ticks. And from what I understand, you know, at first you kind of smell it, but it kind of goes away, or maybe you get used to it. And then there's your typical bug sprays like DEET, or maybe a less harsh bug spray would be like Naturepel or Naturepel, however you want to say it, which the active ingredient in that is picaridin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then there are also things like tea tree oil or peppermint oil, which, you know, are going to be like your most natural options as far as things to apply to yourself. I can say that the DEET and the Naturepel work very well in deterring mosquitoes. But again, I just didn't like the idea of having, you know, poison on me all the time. I know some people just brought these things along and to kind of keep their sanity on certain days, you know, they would use it because you end up scratching so much. I mean, sometimes you scratch in your sleep and your legs will bleed, and you have to tell each other, you know, stop scratching because you're just ate up with mosquito bites. Something to keep in mind with DEET is supposedly it's not really as effective on ticks as mosquitoes, as the ticks will just kind of move to an area that you haven't applied the DEET and get you there. So I think permethrin is the best for deterring ticks from being on you and your gear and biting you. If you find a tick on yourself and it is embedded, you need to pull it out with tweezers. You want to make sure that you don't do any twisting motion or anything like that, so you don't end up like pulling the tick out and leaving the head in. So you want to just, you know, pull the tick out. If you see any parts left inside, get them out too. And then you want to clean the area with soap and water if you have it. If you don't, hand sanitizer. And then just keep a check on it. Just because you've been bitten doesn't mean you're going to get Lyme disease, especially, you know, if you get the tick out pretty quickly. So you should be checking yourself for ticks fairly often, like every day, maybe twice a day. But then you want to just keep a watch and make sure that you don't get like that bullseye that everyone talks about with Lyme disease. Also, just because you don't have the bullseye doesn't mean you don't have Lyme disease. And sometimes, you know, even if you do have it, you don't have Lyme disease. But you just, you know, pay attention to how you feel. If you start having flu-like symptoms and you think that you've been bitten by a tick, go to the doctor and get tested. Now, if you're going to treat your clothes with permethrin or, you know, use like DEET and other bug sprays, I would just think twice about getting into a water source at that point. I know, like on a hot day, you just want to go swim, but you really have to think about putting those, you know, toxins into a water source and like the fish and the people drinking it, you know, and animals drinking it and all of that. So if you're going to do that, you might want to think about, you know, the pros and cons of using those things. Now, if you're like me and you end up not bringing anything out on the trail to help deter these bugs, and you're just like about to absolutely lose your mind, I have a fellow hiker friend who decided to cover himself with mud, and he says it actually does work. So if you're hard pressed, there's always mud, and then also you can use like ash from fires, you know, to rub on yourself, and then building a fire. So if you're eating lunch and you're just getting eaten up, you know, you can create like a small little fire there, and the smoke helps. Or you know, even when it was warm in the summertime, we would start a fire at the shelter simply to just get the mosquitoes out of the area, you know, because they don't like the smoke. And one of the simplest things you can do is just wear clothing, you know, that covers your body. So like the lightweight button-up tops, and then maybe conversion pants so you can swap to shorts if you want to. It's going to get pretty hot in the summertime doing this, but you know, if that's something you're willing to do, and maybe you're a cold-natured person, you don't get hot that easy, then it is an easy option to kind of deter mosquitoes and ticks. Also, some people wear bug nets. I would say like 97% of the people that I saw through hiking did not have the bug net, but you will appreciate it when you've got gnats and flies, you know, all around your face. And again, just to sum it up, most of the folks that I know either did nothing, maybe, you know, brought some DEET or that Nature Pel along, or another brand of the picaridin, just to use very sparingly when they just were about to lose their minds. And then the treating with permethrin were definitely the most common forms of prevention that I saw on trail. Again, I am not personally recommending anything to you. You do what works for you. Just telling you what I did and the folks around me did. All right, so that pretty much sums up our creepy crawlies and, you know, things that you can do while hiking either a section or through hiking the Appalachian Trail. If y'all have any suggestions, what you've done, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked, feel free to comment below so that others can kind of get an idea of different options. And that's really what I want to do here, is build a community, you know, where we can all kind of, you know, help each other out and talk about things that work and don't work and why they do or why they don't. And if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support me, the easiest way to do that at absolutely no cost to you is to either click the link below in the information to go to Amazon, and my book will pop up first. Or you can click at the very end of this video. There will be something that comes up and has my ebook cover, and it'll say click here to buy. So if you click either of those places, it'll direct you to Amazon and it will show you my book. Now, you don't have to purchase my book, but if you're doing shopping on Amazon anyway, like say you got to buy some more dog food today. All right, well, if you bookmark either of those links, then you can go to it and then type in the search bar, like, you know, dog food, whatever kind of dog food your dog eats. And then if you just order, you know, while you're on that page and you went through those links, then it will help me out. So, because I'm an Amazon associate. So anyway, that's the easiest way that you can help me out if you do shopping on Amazon anyway. And if you have any questions about that, just give me, you know, a little comment below. And anyway, I hope that all of this was helpful, and we will see y'all next time. Okay, so I am here at Amicalola State Park, and there's this nice little compartment overhead, so that's the opening, where you can put like a headlamp